In the midst of the chaos of World War II, a love story unfolds that transcends the horrors of war. The narrative begins in a small English village where a young woman named Clara, a nurse, finds solace in her work caring for injured soldiers returning from the front lines. Her dedication to her patients is matched only by her longing for connection in a world filled with uncertainty. The village, nestled in the rolling hills of the English countryside, is a place where the laughter of children has been replaced by the somber sounds of sirens and the distant rumble of aircraft overhead. Clara, with her chestnut hair pulled back into a neat bun and her crisp white uniform, moves through the ward with a quiet determination, tending to the men who have sacrificed so much. One day, while tending to a soldier, she discovers a photograph of a handsome pilot, James, tucked into his uniform. Intrigued by his smile and the story behind the image, she decides to learn more about him. Clara's heart races as she gazes at the picture, captivated by the twinkle in his striking blue eyes and the carefree way his dark hair falls across his forehead. It is a stark contrast to the pain and suffering surrounding her in the hospital. The photograph becomes a symbol of hope, a reminder that life still exists outside the confines of war. Before we start, I'd love to ask for your support. Subscribing helps me keep creating and sharing these stories with you. Clara begins to write letters to James, who is stationed in France preparing for the D-Day invasion. Each letter is filled with her thoughts and dreams, her fears and hopes, as she pours her heart onto the pages. She imagines him reading her words, feeling the warmth of her affection through the ink. Their correspondence quickly blossoms into a deep emotional connection, as they share their hopes, dreams, and fears amidst the backdrop of war. Clara's letters become a lifeline for James, who faces the harsh realities of combat, while Clara's spirit remains unbroken, fueled by the love she feels for a man she has never met. As the days turn into weeks, Clara finds comfort in her growing relationship with James. She often sits by the window of her small room, the fading light of dusk casting a golden hue over her desk as she writes. The scent of ink and paper fills the air, mingling with the distant sounds of laughter from children playing outside. Each letter she receives from James brings a rush of joy, a reminder that there is still beauty in the world, even amidst the chaos of war. His words are filled with bravery and hope, painting vivid pictures of life in France, where the fields are lush and the skies are wide. In one of his letters, James writes about the camaraderie among the pilots, the brotherhood that forms in the face of danger. He describes the thrill of soaring through the clouds, the adrenaline coursing through his veins as he navigates the skies. Clara can almost feel the rush of the wind against her face as she reads his words, imagining the freedom he experiences high above the ground. Yet there is an underlying tension in his letters, a reminder of the perilous nature of his work. He speaks of the preparations for the D-Day invasion, the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. Clara's heart aches for him, knowing that every day could be his last. As their relationship deepens, the narrative explores the psychological impact of war on both characters. Clara grapples with the fear of losing James, while he struggles with the weight of his responsibilities as a pilot. Their letters are filled with moments of tenderness, but also the harsh realities of the world around them. Clara finds herself waking in the middle of the night, her heart racing as she imagines the worst. The sound of distant planes overhead sends shivers down her spine, each roar a reminder of the dangers James faces. Yet she clings to hope, believing that their love can withstand the trials of war. In one particularly poignant letter, James shares his fears about the upcoming invasion. He writes of the uncertainty that looms over him, the fear that he may not return to the woman who has captured his heart. Clara can feel the weight of his words as she reads them, her heart heavy with the knowledge that love can be both a blessing and a curse. She responds with a letter filled with encouragement, reminding him that they are stronger together, even if they are miles apart. "You are not alone," she writes. "I am with you in spirit, cheering you on from afar." The audience experiences the tension of waiting for news, the joy of receiving letters, and the heartache of uncertainty. Each letter exchanged between Clara and James is a thread that weaves their lives together, creating a tapestry of love that defies the boundaries of war. Clara often finds herself daydreaming about their future, imagining the life they could build together once the war is over. She envisions a small cottage with a garden full of wildflowers, where they can sit together on a sun-drenched porch, sharing stories and laughter. As the days grow longer and the invasion approaches, Clara's anxiety intensifies. The hospital is filled with injured soldiers, each one a reminder of the cost of war. She throws herself into her work, determined to make a difference in the lives of those who have suffered so much. Yet, in the quiet moments between patients, her thoughts drift back to James. She clings to the hope that he will return to her, that their love will survive the storm. The day of the D-Day invasion arrives, and Clara anxiously awaits news from James, who is flying one of the planes in the operation. The atmosphere in the hospital is tense, the air thick with anticipation and fear. Nurses and doctors move about with a sense of urgency, each one aware that the outcome of the day will change lives forever. Clara stands by the window, her heart pounding in her chest as she gazes out at the horizon, willing the planes to return safely. As the sun rises, casting a golden light over the world, Clara can feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. She clutches a letter from James, the ink still fresh, filled with his hopes for the day. "No matter what happens," he had written, "know that I love you, Clara. You are my reason to fight." Tears well in her eyes as she reads his words, the love they share a beacon of light in the darkness surrounding her. The narrative shifts to the battlefield, capturing the chaos and bravery of the soldiers, but always returning to Clara's perspective as she clings to the hope that James will return. The sounds of gunfire and explosions echo in her mind, a haunting reminder of the violence unfolding across the English Channel. She closes her eyes, imagining James flying high above the chaos, his spirit unyielding as he navigates the skies. Hours stretch into eternity as Clara waits for news, her heart aching with each passing moment. The hospital fills with wounded soldiers, each one a testament to the brutality of war. Clara moves through the ward, her hands steady as she tends to the injured, but her mind is elsewhere. She can't shake the feeling of dread that has settled in her stomach, a gnawing fear that something is wrong. As evening falls, the atmosphere shifts. The nurses gather in the break room, their faces pale and drawn. Clara can sense the tension in the air, the unspoken fear that hangs over them like a dark cloud. "Have you heard anything?" one of the nurses asks, her voice trembling. Clara shakes her head, her heart sinking. They all know that not every soldier will return home. Finally, as the sun sets, a soldier enters the hospital, his uniform stained and torn. Clara's heart races as she rushes to him, her breath catching in her throat. "What happened?" she demands, her voice urgent. The soldier's eyes are filled with sorrow as he delivers the news that will shatter Clara's world. James's plane has gone down, lost in the chaos of the invasion. The emotional toll is immense, as Clara must confront the possibility of losing the love she has built through letters. The world around her blurs as she struggles to process the news, her heart breaking into 1,000 pieces. She sinks to the floor, the weight of despair crashing over her like a tidal wave. The letters, the dreams, the love they shared, all of it feels like a cruel joke in the face of such loss. However, she refuses to give up hope and decides to search for answers. Clara embarks on a journey to the crash site in Normandy, where she hopes to find some trace of James. The thought of him lying somewhere, alone and forgotten, ignites a fire within her. She cannot rest until she knows the truth. As Clara arrives at the site, she encounters soldiers and locals who share their stories of bravery and loss. The atmosphere is heavy with grief, but also filled with resilience. Clara listens intently, her heart aching for the stories of those who fought and fell. She feels a connection to each soldier, a shared understanding of the sacrifices made in the name of love and duty. Clara discovers remnants of the plane, and, among the debris, she finds the photograph of James she had first seen in the soldier's uniform. This moment serves as a powerful symbol of love enduring even in death. She clutches the photograph to her chest, tears streaming down her face as she remembers the laughter they shared through their letters, the dreams they painted together. In that moment, Clara understands that while James may be gone, their love has left an indelible mark on her heart. She realizes that she must honor his memory by continuing her work as a nurse, helping others in need, and sharing their story with anyone who will listen. The final scenes depict Clara standing at the beach in Normandy, looking out at the horizon, filled with a sense of peace and purpose. As the story concludes, the audience is left with a sense of hope, reflecting on the enduring power of love, even in the darkest of times. The emotional journey of Clara and James serves as a poignant reminder of the human connections that persist amidst the chaos of war. Clara stood at the crash site, her heart heavy with the weight of uncertainty. The remnants of the plane lay scattered across the Normandy landscape, twisted metal and charred debris telling a story of bravery and sacrifice. The air was thick with the scent of salt from the nearby sea and the lingering smoke of the wreckage. As she stepped closer, she could feel the pulse of history beneath her feet, each step resonating with the echoes of those who had fought and fallen. She knelt beside a twisted piece of metal, her fingers brushing against the cold surface. Memories of James flooded her mind, his laughter, the way he spoke of his dreams, and the warmth of his words in her letters. It was as if he were still with her, urging her forward, telling her to find him. Clara took a deep breath, steadying herself against the rising tide of grief. She would not let despair consume her. As she surveyed the area, Clara noticed a group of soldiers nearby, their expressions somber as they sifted through the wreckage. She approached them, her heart racing. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm looking for information about the pilot of this plane. His name was James." One of the soldiers, a tall man with dark hair and weary eyes, turned to her. "I'm sorry, miss. We're still gathering details. It's a tough situation." His voice was kind, but there was an unmistakable heaviness in his tone. Clara nodded, her heart sinking. "I have to know. He means everything to me." The words spilled out before she could stop them, raw and unguarded. The soldier glanced at his companions, then back at Clara. "We're doing our best to find out what happened. If you wait a moment, I can see if I can find any information." He moved away, leaving Clara standing amidst the debris, the hope of answers flickering like a candle in the wind. While she waited, Clara turned her attention to the surroundings. The beach stretched out before her, the waves crashing rhythmically against the shore, a stark contrast to the chaos that had unfolded here. She could hear the distant sounds of soldiers coordinating their efforts, the occasional shout, the clinking of metal as they worked. Each sound was a reminder of the lives intertwined with the tragedy of war. Moments later, the soldier returned, his expression grave. "I'm sorry to say, miss, but we've received reports that the pilot was lost in the crash. We're still trying to confirm details, but it doesn't look good." The words hit Clara like a physical blow, knocking the breath from her lungs. She pressed her hand to her mouth, fighting back the tears that threatened to spill over. "Lost?" she echoed, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I need to find him. I need to know if he's really gone." "I understand," he replied gently, "but sometimes we have to accept what we cannot change. We're still searching for survivors, and we'll keep you updated if we find anything more." Clara nodded, her heart breaking under the weight of the soldier's words. She turned away, seeking solace in the beauty of the landscape, but the beauty felt tainted now, overshadowed by the grief that enveloped her. She could almost hear James's voice in her mind, urging her to stay strong, to keep fighting for their love. As she wandered along the beach, Clara's thoughts turned to the letters they had exchanged. Each word had been a lifeline, a connection that transcended the distance and danger separating them. She recalled the way James had described the sky, his love for flying, and the dreams they had shared of a future together. Suddenly, her foot struck something hard buried in the sand. Clara knelt down, brushing away the grains to reveal a small, weathered object. Her heart raced as she pulled it free, a silver locket, tarnished but still intact. She opened it, revealing a faded photograph inside. It was a picture of a young couple, smiling and full of life. Clara's breath caught in her throat. This had to belong to someone who had loved deeply, just as she had loved James. She held the locket tightly, feeling its weight in her palm, a tangible reminder of love lost and the connections that remained. In that moment, Clara made a silent vow to honor not only James's memory, but also the memories of all those who had been lost in the war. Determined, she returned to the crash site, her heart set on finding answers. She approached the soldiers once more, clutching the locket tightly. "I found this," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "It might belong to someone who knew the pilot. Can you help me find out more?" The soldier took the locket, examining it carefully. "We'll do our best, miss. Sometimes these personal items can lead us to families who need to know what happened. It's a long process, but we'll keep it safe." As Clara handed over the locket, a sense of purpose filled her. She would not let the love she shared with James fade into oblivion. Their connection was too strong, too real. She would fight for it, even if it meant facing the harsh realities of war. Days passed, and Clara found herself immersed in her work at the makeshift hospital set up for the wounded soldiers. The air was thick with the smell of antiseptic, and the sounds of moans and whispers filled the room. Each soldier that came through the door carried a story, a piece of the war that had touched their lives. Clara listened intently, offering comfort and care, her heart aching for each one. In the quiet moments between tending to patients, she would pull out the locket, tracing her fingers over its surface. She had learned that the couple in the photograph were from a nearby village, and she had vowed to return it to their family once the war was over. It served as a reminder of the enduring nature of love, even amidst chaos. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Clara sat outside the hospital, her heart heavy with longing. She took out her notebook, the pages filled with her thoughts and letters to James, and began to write once more. "Dear James," she penned, her heart pouring onto the page. "Today I found a locket that reminded me of us. It's a small piece of love, a symbol of what we shared. I wish I could hear your voice again, to know that you're safe. The world feels so dark without you, and yet I hold on to the hope that one day we will be together again." As she wrote, the sound of footsteps drew her attention. A soldier approached, his uniform dusty and worn. "Miss, I have news," he said, his voice tinged with urgency. "We've received word about the crash site. There are survivors. We're gathering information, and I thought you'd want to know." Clara's heart soared at the possibility, a flicker of hope igniting within her. "Survivors?" she echoed, her voice trembling with anticipation. "Do you know if James is among them?" The soldier hesitated, his expression somber. "We're still trying to confirm identities, but there is a chance. They're being treated at a nearby field hospital. Would you like to come with me?" Without hesitation, Clara nodded, her heart racing as she followed the soldier. Each step felt like a leap of faith, a journey toward the possibility of reunion. The night air was crisp, filled with the distant sounds of soldiers preparing for the next phase of the war. Clara's mind raced with thoughts of James, the love they had shared, and the hope that had carried her through the darkest moments. As they arrived at the field hospital, Clara's heart pounded in her chest. The atmosphere was charged with urgency, nurses and doctors moving swiftly to tend to the injured. Clara felt a sense of familiarity wash over her, a reminder of her own work back home. She approached a nurse, her voice steady. "I'm looking for a pilot named James. He was in a crash during D-Day." The nurse glanced at her, her expression softening. "We've had several pilots come through. They're in the recovery area. I can take you to see if he's one of them." Clara followed the nurse, her heart racing with each step. The room was filled with the sounds of moans and whispers, the scent of antiseptic hanging heavy in the air. Clara's breath caught in her throat as they reached the recovery area. There, among the beds, she spotted a familiar figure. James lay propped up against the pillows, his face pale but alive. Clara's heart soared as she rushed to his side, tears streaming down her cheeks. "James!" she cried, her voice breaking with emotion. He turned his head, and their eyes met. A smile broke across his face, lighting up the room despite the pain etched on his features. "Clara," he whispered, his voice hoarse but filled with warmth. "You came for me." "I never stopped believing," she replied, her voice thick with emotion. She took his hand, feeling the warmth of his skin against hers, grounding her in the reality of their reunion. "I was so afraid I'd lost you." James squeezed her hand gently, his eyes filled with gratitude and love. "I'm here now. That's all that matters." As they sat together, Clara felt a wave of relief wash over her. The chaos of the world outside faded into the background, leaving only the two of them, bound by love and resilience. They shared stories of their experiences, the hardships they had faced, and the love that had kept them going. "I thought I'd never see you again," James confessed, his voice filled with vulnerability. "When the plane went down, I thought of you. You were my reason to fight." Clara's heart swelled with emotion. "And you were mine," she replied, her voice steady. "Every letter, every moment we shared kept me going. I knew we would find our way back to each other." As the night wore on, they spoke of dreams for the future, plans that extended beyond the war. They envisioned a life together, free from the shadows of conflict, where love would flourish in the light of peace. Clara felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that their love had survived the darkest of times. Days turned into weeks as James recovered, and Clara continued her work at the hospital. Each day brought new challenges, but together they faced them with unwavering strength. The bond between them deepened, forged in the fires of war and tempered by hope. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the hospital, Clara and James sat together outside. The air was filled with the sounds of laughter and camaraderie among the soldiers, a reminder of the resilience of the human spirit. "Do you remember the first letter you sent me?" James asked, a smile playing on his lips. Clara laughed softly, her heart full. "Of course. You wrote about flying over the fields, how the world looked from above. It made me feel like I was soaring with you." James nodded, his expression turning serious. "I've seen things I wish I could forget, but your letters were my escape, Clara. They reminded me of what I was fighting for." "And I will always fight for you," Clara replied, her voice steady. "No matter what happens, our love will endure." As they sat together, hand in hand, the future stretched before them like an open road. They spoke of their dreams, their plans for a life beyond the war, and the love that had carried them through the darkest moments. In the weeks that followed, news of the war continued to unfold, but Clara and James found solace in each other. They became a beacon of hope for those around them, a reminder that love could flourish even amidst chaos. Clara often returned to the beach where she had found the locket, the waves crashing against the shore, a soothing rhythm that echoed the heartbeat of their love. One day, as they walked along the beach, Clara paused, looking out at the horizon. "I want to honor those we've lost," she said, her voice filled with determination. "Their stories deserve to be remembered." James nodded, his gaze steady. "We can do that together. We can share our story and the stories of others. Love is worth fighting for, and it deserves to be celebrated." With renewed purpose, Clara and James began to gather stories from the soldiers and locals, sharing tales of bravery and sacrifice. They organized small gatherings where people could come together to remember and honor those who had fought for freedom. Clara's heart swelled with pride as she watched the community come together, united by love and resilience. As the war drew closer to its end, Clara and James found themselves standing on the beach once more, hand in hand. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the water, and Clara felt a sense of peace wash over her. "We did it," she said, her voice filled with awe. "We made it through." James turned to her, his eyes filled with love. "And we will continue to fight for our love, no matter what comes next." Clara smiled, her heart full. "Together, we can face anything." As they stood on the beach, watching the waves crash against the shore, Clara knew that their love would endure, a shining beacon of hope in a world that had seen so much darkness. Their journey had been fraught with challenges, but love had proven to be the strongest force of all. In the days that followed, the war came to an end, and Clara and James found themselves standing at the threshold of a new beginning. They embraced the future with open hearts, ready to build a life together, filled with love, laughter, and the promise of brighter days ahead. As they walked hand in hand along the beach, Clara looked out at the horizon, filled with hope and determination. She knew that their love story would continue, a testament to the power of love in the face of adversity. Together, they would honor the memories of those they had lost and carry their stories forward, ensuring that love would always prevail. In the end, Clara understood that love was not just a fleeting emotion, but a force that could transcend time and distance. It was a bond that could withstand the trials of war, a light that could shine through the darkest nights. And as she stood beside James, she knew that their love would forever be a part of the tapestry of history, woven together with the stories of all those who had fought for love, freedom, and a better tomorrow.